Every podcast needs a great cover, but not everyone is a great graphic designer, including me. In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to create a podcast cover using Canva. Okay, first things first, don't forget to subscribe. You know where the button is, just click it and you get videos turned up whenever they're done. Check out the complimentary podcast as well. Just search your podcast player for Not Another Marketing Podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify and Amazon and absolutely everywhere. Also check out the podcast training sessions that I do as well. I run these online and also one-to-one private sessions as well for folks. There's links to absolutely everything in the description, so make sure you check it out. Now, Canva is pretty cool, okay? It's like graphic software for people who really don't want to learn how to use Photoshop, including me. You just need to knock out some quick, good-looking graphics, right? For social media, for your podcast, for places like Canva is absolutely perfect for this. The premium version offers a few extra features and more stock photography options as well. But designing a cover for your podcast can be done in the free version quite easily. Okay, let's quickly talk about the style of your podcast cover. My own opinion is that there's only really two different styles of cover. There's kind of like the eye-catching logo style cover, right? And then there's the cover which features images of the host or the hosts or the guests of the podcast on them. And they both aim at two completely different types of podcast. So if we take, say, a true crime podcast or a history podcast, for example, they would need the eye-catching logo style cover, okay? Because the actual sort of focus of the podcast is a story. It's not the people actually presenting the podcast. It's the story which they're telling. So I think an eye-catching logo style cover would work for that. Now, if you're kind of like an interview style podcast, a Joe Rogan style, my own podcast, which interviews marketing people, okay, then I think it's more important to use images of the host or the hosts and also the guests on your podcast cover as well. And also add separate guests for each individual episode cover. And we'll talk about episode covers a little bit later as well. So think to yourself, what style of podcast am I running? Am I running kind of like a storytelling podcast? Or am I running a kind of like an interview podcast? And then decide to yourself, do I need that eye-catching logo style, or do I need images of the host and the guests on the podcast? And once you've worked that out, we can get on with actually building it. Okay, so this is Canva. This is what you get when you actually sign up and you log in for the first time. Well, maybe not the first time, because you won't have all your designs. As you can see, I've been designing lots and lots of different things down the bottom there, but we'll come to that a little bit later. So what Canva does is it gives you the opportunity to choose from templates, pre-made podcast cover template. So you don't even have to think about what type of design you want. It just makes everything so simple. So in the top box, we type in podcast cover, and they've already got that in there. So we click on it and we get lots and lots of podcast covers. Loads and loads and loads of podcast covers. Now, as you can see, some of these covers have got people in them for kind of like the host, where the host is the focus of the podcast. And some of them are just kind of like logo-based, text-based podcast covers for when the focus is more on the actual story or the content of the podcast, which we spoke about earlier. So if we have a look at this, there's a person podcast down here in this corner. There's a kind of like a logo style podcast. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of different covers to choose from. Now, if you hover over these covers, some of them will say free in the bottom right-hand corner. And these are the ones you can use with the free plan. Other ones are included in the premium plan. And just for clarification, I pay for Canva. I'm actually on the premium plan. So this makes life really, really simple, doesn't it? We get the opportunity to be able to just pick any one of these templates and use it. So let's pick a template really quickly. Let's go down a little bit. Let me have a look. Oh, I want to, yeah, that's a cool one. True crime podcast. So we're going to click that. and it opens up, and then we can start editing our podcast cover. Okay, so the idea of this video is really to show you how to build a podcast cover from scratch using your own designs and things. But what I want to quickly show you is how you can just extremely quickly just edit one of these pre-built templates and download it. So, I mean, if you have a true crime podcast, this is great, isn't it? You can just literally click on the text here and put the name of podcast in there with with Tina. There we go. You can change the text, and then as soon as you've done this, you literally just go to the download button at the top right hand corner, and you can download things as a PNG image or a JPEG image. Okay, really simple. I would recommend JPEG image for a podcast cover because that's kind of what you're going to need to upload to all the different podcast hosts and places like that. So that's the really quick way of doing it when you're using one of the pre-built templates. But what we're going to do is build something from scratch. Okay, so let's start looking at creating a podcast cover kind of from scratch, from a blank canvas, which is what we're going to do now. We're going to try and create something which looks a little bit like my podcast cover. So my main podcast cover is this here. I'm going to try and create something which looks very similar to that. So let's close that down. Let's go back to our home page here and let's start from scratch. So we click on Create a Design. We can choose Podcast Cover. Like so, which creates an image which is 3000 by 3000 pixels in size. That's exactly the size you want, 3000 pixels by 3000 pixels. Nothing bigger, nothing smaller. That's the perfect size you want. Now, the first thing we need to do is to add a background to it. Now, Canva comes with lots and lots of backgrounds. We can click on the little element icon on the left-hand side here, and we can just literally just type in background, and we can search for lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of different types of backgrounds. So if we go down, there's a cool blackboard background there. We could just drag that over, and bingo, we can create a blackboard background if we want to. But I'm going to use my own background for my own podcast cover, which I've got. So I'm going to delete this. And what we can do is we can upload our images and our graphics and little logos and things and bits and pieces to Canva and insert them into our own designs. So what I've done already ages ago was kind of like upload to Canva this little background here. So I'm going to drag that over. And that is the background of my podcast cover. Simple as that. It just appears as if by magic. Right, the next thing I want to do is to put an image of myself into this thing because, narcissism and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to go back to Elements and we're going to get rid of the background search term there and go down a bit and look for frames like so. Now the frames are for images. Okay, so you can literally just insert one of these into your design and then put an image in it. So let's see how it works. We're going to choose this one at the top right-hand corner here with slightly curved edges. Going to move this around, pop it there, but we want to change the style. So I'm going to change that to maybe maybe that sort of size. Yeah, does that look okay? Right. Now I want to make sure it's in the center. So again, I'm going to click and drag this around until we see the guideline appear, which tells me that that image is now in the center, which is great. So that's got our frame in place. What I now want to do is put a picture of me into the frame. So we go to Uploads again. We find a picture of me here, me, and slot it in. And magic! It just appears in the little frame, the correct size. Dead easy, right? The next thing we want to do is to add some text with the name of the podcast on there. So we go to our little text icon on the left-hand side, and as you can see, there's loads and loads and loads of different styles of text to choose from. Loads and loads. I'm not a big fan of some of these. They're a little bit, I don't know, I don't like them. I like plain text myself. I'm a bit simple. So what I'm going to do is drag over the add a heading and slot it in there. And it just plonks it anywhere, which is horrible. So let's resize it for a start. Let's bring it in and resize it like so. Let's move it up a little bit. But again, that text is just absolutely awful. So what we're going to do is replace the text with not another marketing podcast. Oh, it's too big. Right. So let's take the size down. I'm going to try and take it down to, say, 200. Okay. Oh, that's a bit better. Oh, let's change that for a little. Oh, there we go. Still doesn't look right, does it? Okay, let's take it down a little bit more. Let's maybe go down to 190. Right. What we also want to do is to change the font. So I'm going to highlight all of this and I'm going to go to the font section, and there are loads of fonts to choose from. Stacks. I mean, you'll spend all day looking through them. The font I use is called Special Elite. I quite like this one. So I'm going to click on that and it changes everything to that font. Simple as that. It still doesn't look right, does it? Because it's the wrong colour. So we highlight all of it and we go to the text colour option there and white. And there we go. That looks an awful lot better. But it's not quite level, is it? So let's move everything up. The guideline is there. That's like so. Not another marketing podcast. I don't know. Do you reckon we ought to take that down? I'm going to take this down a little bit more because I'd like not another to appear on one line, maybe. So let's go. Aha. Right. Let's see. Go up. No. Back down again. Right. There we go. So let's now move that centered like so. Perfect. Okay. And there we go. We've got a podcast cover. It's a really simple podcast cover. It's a very simple podcast cover. But it does the job. This is the main cover that will be uploaded to my podcast host and will show for the main podcast. I think this style of podcast cover is quite good because it's recognizable. It's simple enough to be able to be recognized quite easily. When you're looking at podcast covers on mobile phones, particularly, you want your text to be big. You don't want a lot of fuss on your actual podcast cover. If there's too much information and it's showing in a tiny, tiny little thumbnail, all that information's going to be lost. So it's nice to just have something like a nice background which stands out, a nice bit of text which stands out, and also a nice image which stands out as well, so that it's quickly and easily identifiable on a mobile phone. So that's pretty much what we're doing with our podcast cover. We can download this now that it's done. So we download PNG or JPEG, going to choose JPEG, and then we hit the download button, and it literally downloads it to the downloads place on our computer, wherever it is. And that's it. We've done it. That's it. There's your podcast cover, all sorted and downloaded. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to convert this into a podcast episode cover where we have two images. We have an image of me and we have an image of the guest. Now, you might not want to do this. If you're just using a logo style podcast cover and there's no people involved in it because you're telling a story or something, right? Then you don't really need to do this. You can use just one cover for all your episodes and all your actual, promotional bump for the actual podcast itself. But I like to have a separate episode cover because each episode features a different guest. Okay, somebody else being interviewed. So that's what we're going to do now. So what we'll do is we'll go up to the File menu at the top and we're going to go to Make a Copy. And this will actually copy what we've just built, so we don't have to do it all again. Makes life a lot easier. All right. And then what we're going to do is just move everything around. So I'm going to move me up like so. I'm going to move the text up like that. So it's at the top. So we've got space down the bottom. And then we right click and we copy and we paste like so. And we drag it down and we have another image holder there. Okay, so let's move this up a little bit. Make a little bit more room like so. Up like so, like that. But there's two of me, so let's get rid of me. And we're going to go to the uploads. And then we've got images of the guests that appear on my podcast. So I'm going to... This was Colton Brenner. Did a podcast with him a few weeks ago. Check it out. Not another marketing podcast. Well, you can see that, can't you? So we're just going to drag Carlton's in there. And then we're going to copy and paste our text, like so. We're going to drag it down to the middle here, and then we can start changing the text here. So we put episode, I don't know where I'm up to. I think it's about 118 episodes now. Great. And then you could put like name of the episode here. Again, that's way too big, isn't it? So let's highlight all that, take the text down loads and loads and loads and loads and loads, like that. And we have, it's all centered at the moment. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go there and pick, little alignment thing and go left align. So we've got episode 118, name of the podcast. And I'm going to slot that in just there. And I've spelled episode wrong. So, there we go. That's better. Right. So you get the gist, don't you? I remember that goes a little. That's better. Yeah. You get the idea, don't you? You can then create this cover, and then every new episode which you create will get a different cover if you've got a different guest. Like we said at the beginning, if you don't feature guests and people and you're a storytelling podcast, okay, then you probably don't need to do this. But if you are interviewing folks, you want to put a picture of the person you're interviewing on your podcast cover for each episode, this is the way to do it. Once you're happy with it and you're finished with it, go to that download button at the top, select JPEG and download it, and it's done. Okay, dead easy, isn't it, to build a really nice-looking podcast cover. Make sure you check out the link for Canva in the description. Now, if you find yourself creating lots of artwork for podcasts and social media as well, it's worth paying for the premium. It really is. You get the brilliant feature of instantly being able to convert images to all the different social media sizes, which saves you heaps and heaps of time, I can promise you. So check out the link in the description for Canva. Don't forget to subscribe as well for more videos. Check out the complimentary podcast. Just search your favourite podcast player for Not Another Marketing Podcast. And also check out the one-to-one podcast training that I do as well. There's links to absolutely everything in the description. Thanks for watching.